What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies, and welcome to another episode of Movie Swap. Tonight's going to be a fun one because I've got the man with me that brings all the energy. So if I seem a little low at points, he's going to pick me right up. And this is the man that also brings us lots and lots of trivia and lots of swap meets and all sorts of stuff, including the morning mug. And we will bring him in right now. That is Huck of Huck's Pop Culture Cafe. What's going on, Huck?
Oh man, I'm so excited to be here, Dell. I love your channel, man. I love this series, and I was excited when you asked me to be a part of it. So, yes, let's go. Super pumped for tonight.
Oh yeah, I am so ready. Question right off the bat for you though, and I'm not even going to ask you about the trivia because I've asked you about that, and I know
Right
you're
on.
working on it, so that's in the works.
Yeah,
So
it's
my
almost
my
done.
question, yeah. So my question is about your uh one of your recent videos where you got the call from somebody at a thrift shop and they had all these videos. It was like 400 movies and nine
Yeah.
boxes or something like that. So I watched that and I heard you talk a little bit about that with John on Plaid X2. Is it Plaid X2 or am I
Mm-hmm.
messing it up? Plaid X2.
Yeah.
Anyway,
FedEx too.
yeah. So the question is, how did you form that connection? And because I know lots of us want to duplicate that because we're all kind of wanting that call. Somebody call us up and say, "Hey, I got a bunch of stuff down here."
It's insane. Yeah. Well, basically, this is the thrift store that's in my neighborhood. I don't have many, so I go to that one a lot. And the girl Tracy there, she's super personable, and I'm, me. So I walk in, hey Tracy, I got to know her name. And then after a while, I'd always pull my phone out, and then she was kind of curious what I was doing. And I said, "Oh, I have this YouTube channel." I told her all about it. And she was actually very receptive and very like, "Oh, interested." And and at the time there was like a couple of boxes someone had bought out that day, the day I happened to tell her about it. And so I'm digging through the boxes and I'm shooting them, and got her to wave at the end. So we just developed this rapport. And so every time I walk in, I'm like, anything there? She goes, no. Like, she knows exactly what I'm looking for now. And then I went in one day, of course, just looking, and she goes, oh, I got to tell you something. So my husband has been trying to communicate with this guy who says he wants to give up his collection. It's about 400 movies. I didn't know how many boxes that was going to be at the time, but he wants to donate them to us. And I want to give you first dibs. I'm like,
Oh,
like
yeah,
my
no
head
kidding.
exploded. I'm like, no way. It's like literally letting a kid loose in a candy store.
Oh,
And
I'm
I'm like,
telling you.
God bless you, Tracy. So, and the guy was like, I was worried because 2 or 3 weeks in a row, it was supposed to be there, and then it wasn't there. I'm like, oh, he's flipped his mind.
Right.
It's that sort of collector's regret. It's like, oh wait, I can't do it. I can't get rid of my stuff. But he finally did, and she called and said, look, come on in. The boxes are on the floor. They're not open or anything, and no one's going to look through them. And I want you to get first dip. So come on over. I'm like, jumped in the car, headed over, just salivating. There they were, 9 boxes on the floor, and just started digging. And I told John too, while I was watching my own footage, I noticed 2 movies. I scanned right over. I was like,
Mhm.
Attack the Block was in there, and I really loved Attack the Block. But it was
Yeah,
like the
I
last box. I was kind of fried, and I just skimmed over it and closed the lid and was like, no. So I got I got to call her and see if it's still, because then when I got done, she took them all away, and they've never
yeah.
come out since. So I think she still has them.
Okay, cool. I did
Pretty
watch
cool.
that video with John, and I remember you telling him that story. And I don't go out and do hunts for my channel. And that's one of the reasons is like I know I'm just gonna be trying to hold the phone and flip through, and I'm gonna miss something. So it's one of the reasons I don't do it. Um, I've gotten close to a situation like that, not really quite the same, but I did have a guy in my area. He dropped off about 500 or 600 movies at a thrift
Ooh.
shop, and I just happened to be there, like not that day, but the next day, and they were just hauling them out. So it was the same thing, kid in the candy store kind of deal, and and it was there for the pickings for a long time because they actually put it out.
Hmm.
So I mean, over the next couple of months, I was just over there all the time, just trying to seeing what was left, and then eventually it got to a point where they were like, "Okay, we've got this many left," and it must have been like me and one other person buying them. So they started selling them for like $1 a piece at
Oh,
that point.
sweet.
So yeah, so over that couple of months, I probably picked up 70, 80 movies
Oh,
from them. It was pretty good. All right, so my
that's great. What's the
yeah,
best one you got? What's the best one you got from that?
the best one I got from that is
Or you?
actually okay. You know the big Halloween box set that Scream Factory everybody
Yeah.
wants. I didn't get that, but at the same time they released the smaller version that had two Blu-ray, pretty thick Blu-ray cases that had all the Halloween movies. It was the same set. It was just in
Oh
different
yeah.
packaging. So that's what I got. I got both of those for $1 each. And it was they
Wow.
yeah, I don't have the big wraparound box, but I'm fine with that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Look,
that
in the end, it just comes down to the movies. Like packaging is great, and we love nice packaging. Like you're surrounded by it. I've got cool stuff, but it is kind of in the end just getting that movie, at that time. That's great. A
yeah,
nice score.
exactly. So I was happy with that. Not the best thing I've ever found thrifting. Matter of fact, do you have a best thing you've ever found thrifting?
Um, I don't know if there's ever. That's the thing is like I don't think I've come across something where it's like, dude, it's like a box set of this rare thing. I think I just yeah, I think it's just been like fun titles, nothing super rare.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I can't say other than just like that whole score as a whole, getting
Right.
that. But there's not like one title. I mean, there was fun stuff like I was dying to get Excalibur in the collection and Kick Ass and things like that. So those were fun. But I don't think I've come across sort of like a little holy grail where I was like, oh man, I need to snag that. I don't think I've had one of those yet.
Okay, but closest thing I've had to that is a pawn shop, not a thrift shop, but a pawn shop, and they had one rack that had mostly DVDs on it, and it had some Blu-rays, and I picked up three titles. One of those titles was they had a Criterion of 8.5, Criterion Blu-ray for 8.5. And so I grabbed that and then two other titles, and I go up to the register, and the guy behind the register, he's not a collector, he doesn't care, and and he's
Yeah.
busy, yeah, and he's busy. So I hold these up, and I said, "Well, how much?" And he looks and kind of like, "Give me $1.50
For the whole thing.
for the whole thing." So basically, I got 8.5, a Criterion Blu-ray for 50 cents.
You have to love the people that do not care about collecting. Those are our best friends at checkout.
Yes,
Um,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh, you know what? I will say I did get a Alfred Hitchcock Criterion for $1. It was it
Oh,
was
cool.
it was Rebecca, and
Okay, cool.
that was amazing. That was like, and it was still just DVD, but still it was loaded and it was Criterion, so
Right,
for
right.
a dollar, so that was great.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna check in with the chat and see who's with us.
Yeah.
We got about 17 folks here, which I am very pleased with because I know, and like a lot of there's another very big stream going on right
No,
now.
there's nothing else going on right now. This is it. This is the big stream right here.
This is the big stream.
That's
So
right.
I'm happy for everybody that's here, and let's see who those people are. And of course, Adrian is first in.
What's
He
going on,
says,
Adrian?
"Hey, Dell and Huck."
Good to see you, buddy.
Oh yeah, Corey
Oi.
Wilkinson says, "Hey there." And of course, there was you in the stream. Says, "Hey, party
I'm
people."
everywhere.
Spicy 4K action, cool. Two of the coolest people on YouTube. What's up, Dell, Huck, and the chat? Thank you.
Digging that, buddy.
Appreciate it, Spicy 4K. And Draculina Horror is here. Hey, everyone. Hey, Caprice. How you doing?
What's going on?
Glad to see Caprice out and about and joining our little clique here, our little family.
Very happy. Sean's
Sean.
here.
Sean's here. He also
Chat with
says,
him
hey.
earlier.
Yep. And Caprice says,
Oh,
"Huck."
Caprice. What's up, baby?
And of course, the man Benicio the
Benicio.
Horror Cholo is here. He says, "What up, my peoples? Del Monte and the Huckster."
Nice.
I love the name. I got nicknames as a kid, like a lot of people, and most of them I didn't like. But this one you gotta love it when Benicio gives you a name, right?
Right on.
Adrian saying hey to everyone, and Sean is bouncing back and forth, back and forth. I'm
Yeah,
guessing
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people are doing that tonight.
Yep. And Fish
Fish.
is hello, Del and Huckster. Very cool. And I'm if you see me skipping over, if I skip over your comments, it's probably just because you're just saying hey to somebody else. And I'm gonna, if you're new to the chat, at least for tonight, I'll definitely pull you up and make sure you get noticed.
What's up,
And
Emmett?
Emmett is the next one. He always has a question, but this time he just says, "Hey, Hug, sorry I didn't join your morning mug."
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to get there. Sometimes they just miss it. It's so great seeing everybody there in the morning. I know morning shows are weird on the weekday because most people work, but some people are from England. It's like
Right,
4 o'clock in the
right.
afternoon. That's great too. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, man, check out the replay. It's always fun when you're there.
yeah. I try to check out the replays. I'm a teacher, so mornings I can't sneak a peek and see what Huck's doing on the morning mug. I got to keep
Right.
all
Yeah,
eyes
be like,
on
Teach,
the
what are you
kiddies.
doing? Nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, we got a lot of people just now saying hey back and forth to each other. Really appreciate that everybody's here. And like I always say, go ahead and subscribe to definitely my guest, Mr. Huck, and Huck's Pop Culture Cafe, and subscribe to each other in the chat because there's a lot of great content creators out there amongst you all that are all participating in the chat tonight. And if you feel up to it or you feel like I deserve it, go ahead and give me a subscription also. And we got Michael Hubbard is here. He says, "Hey y'all, hi Huck,"
What's going on, buddy?
and just looking to see if anybody new had bounced in because we are going to get ready to start talking movies here in just a second, or at least the movies that we came to talk about. Sean, start stopping in to say hi. And like you said, I expect a lot of people to do that, and that's cool. And up here,
I mean,
oh,
the
here's
thing
one.
that they
We
want to
talked
do is
about
when it's over, go check out the replay. If you did bounce back and forth a
exactly.
little bit, sit down tonight as you nuzzled in bed and watch Dell and the Huckster.
Now, Hug, I'm gonna tell you one. This next comment I'm gonna pull up is a big one for me because this is a guy that I personally follow on YouTube. Been following him for a little while now, and he does one of my favorite things is he talks superheroes, and that's all he does on his channel. And you talked about the UK. He is actually from the down under, from Australia,
Oh, cheers!
and
Look at
this
that.
is Troy from the Comic Book Movie
Oh,
Collector's
hey,
Guide. And he
nice.
says, "Good day." Of course, he says, "Good day." Good day, Dell and Huck
I'll
from
do your
Down Under.
Batman pose there.
There you
Thank
go.
you,
There
bud.
you go. So I'm very happy that he could be here at least for a little bit. If I'm not sure how long he's going to stick around tonight, but thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Love
Of course.
Australia.
And okay, Huck, can you say it with me? Can you say Floyd
I'm ready.
House Flicks?
House
Go ahead, Flicks.
flicks.
There you go. He's in the house. This is Dell and Huck in the building. Great stream.
Yeah.
And of hey, we all miss Floyd. We all miss Big Chris from Floyd House Flicks. KB is here. He says, "What's up, party people, especially Del Huck and fellow
Fellow
mugs."
mugs. I love KB. Always throw my mugs out there.
There you go. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the actual movies that we came to talk about. Oh, wait, got a couple more. Hard Copy Blues
Nice.
is here. What's
Copy.
going on?
Got Ben.
That's
Whoops.
the other Vin from Vin and Vin. And of course, that's Vinicio had to welcome him in, and Cinema Man. Boo, my mouth is getting tired already. This is going
What's
to be
up,
a
Cinema
long night if
Man?
that keeps happening. He says Huck like the Karate Kid. He is the best around, but he left some good ones behind in those boxes. Oh, so
Well, I
someone was
mean, some I probably already had, but then there were some I realized I wish I would have grabbed. So there were
right.
a couple. Yeah.
Laren's also here. What's going on, Laren? He had a
Hey,
great
Laren.
conversation with KB last week, I believe. All right,
Yeah.
so let's go ahead. I keep finding them, Huck. I'm sorry. We got
It's
we
because
got the
the
twins here.
love keeps coming.
Gotta talk about the twins, right? What's going
Love
on,
them.
Mika and Kira? Either
Hey,
or
ladies.
both. Hey, thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over to you, and you tell the people what movie did you recommend for me to watch?
All right, y'all. So this was the fun part, was throwing out titles to see what we would love to share with the other person. And I've talked about this one before, and I went ahead and suggested Copland, with Sylvester Stallone, De Niro, Ray Liotta. I mean, it is got an all-star cast. Michael Rappaport, just super awesome. James Mangold directed it, and it is
Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel. It's like one of the and it's one of the best performances you'll ever see from Stallone. It's very reserved. You are not used to seeing Stallone in such a reserved role, and he's got two epic scenes. Well, I'll let you get to that, but anyway, there are. It's a. Should I give him a little background about the
Yes,
story?
absolutely.
Okay. So Stallone is this sheriff in a very small town where a lot of the mafia people have decided to take residence in, right? Because the city on the other side of the bay is where all the corruption happens. So, and Stallone is kind of friends with all these people. It's all sort of happy-go-lucky stuff, but there's still things going on that De Niro wants to investigate. And he knows things are bad. And there's a kid, Michael Rappaport plays this kid, who is connected to them. And he's the nephew of not Ray Liotta. Who is it? You just said his name.
Keitel, yeah.
Harvey Keitel, yeah. And he is a cop, and he sees two guys in a car at the beginning, and they sort of sideswipe him, and they're just messing around. They're just two dudes in the car being kids, and they sort of pull up, and he's like flashing his badge. He's got his gun out. He's like, pull over. And the guy holds up a club, the old, like anybody uses clubs anymore, but it's like a steering wheel club. And he just kind of holds it up like it's a gun just to kind of like be joking. So, and that kind of freaks him out.
Let me pause you 1 second.
Yeah.
1 second. Because I know we got some youngsters in the chat. So for those who don't know what he's talking about when he says a club.
The club. Go ahead.
Basically, it was a locking mechanism that you put on your steering wheel.
Yeah.
And if you stick the end of it out, because it's either metal or hard plastic, depending on what you got. But if you just stick the end of it out and you just saw the end of it, especially at nighttime, maybe it could be mistaken for the barrel of a gun. But it was, like I said, just a locking mechanism that went onto your steering wheel so nobody could steal your car. And for a point of reference, we're talking about the action that Huck was talking about is in New York City is where they all moved from. And most of these guys are not just mafia guys. They're also cops. Mm-hmm. And De Niro is internal affairs. But go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's good. Back and forth, baby. That's how we go. No, and it's true because so he kind of shoots at the kids and ends up killing them both. And he's freaking out. And so the whole plot is revolving around covering that up. And the initial cover up is they assume he's been basically jumped off the bridge and killed himself, which didn't really happen. And so the story is all about keeping him quiet and hidden while the investigation happens and Stallone trying to figure out what's going on. And I don't want to get too much into it, but like, that's just the initial springboard. And I'm telling you, the scenes between like Keitel and Stallone and De Niro and Stallone are just so good. And they do most of the heavy lifting in the acting in those scenes, but Stallone listens very well and responds accordingly. And I don't know. It's anyway, I pass it to you now. I want to see where I'm going to keep gushing, but it was yours to watch. I want to see.
Well, let's go ahead and get into Stallone's performance then, since we talked about him with Keitel and with De Niro. And they did the lion's share of the acting. I thought, though, like you said, is one of Stallone's best performances because he does two things. He simultaneously goes against type, but is also still the same type. So let me explain what I mean, in case I'm clear as mud. So he's not Rambo for sure. We got not at least all. As far as he's not, at least not later stage Rambo. He's not Rambo 2 on, where he's just tough guy gonna walk in and destroy everybody. And he's not later stage Rocky either, but it's a character not too dissimilar from Rocky 1 and First Blood, and that it's just kind of a regular guy, a little bit of an oaf, not the smartest guy, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, And everybody kind of likes him. No, and in this movie, nobody really loves him. They just kind of tolerate him. It seems most of the time,
Mhm.
and he does that very well. And in this movie, he kind of has to stay in that mode for a lot longer than in other movies. So I thought it still fit his abilities, and I thought that helped him deliver such a fine performance. He was really good in his role, and physically, he also was a little chunkier than I was
A
used
little
to seeing.
chunky, yeah, he had a real gut, and then there was a scene where too where he flops out on the bed and he shows it, so it wasn't like one of those, pads that you wear to look chunky. He pulled it in De Niro. He put on the pounds for the part. But it's
Right,
funny too
right,
because at the same time, Stallone also still has like those arms, so he's still,
yeah,
a fit, guy.
yeah,
And yeah, he is in that authoritative role. I think he's there because he can be manipulated by the,
exactly.
the, the higher power in a way that even he's okay with it because he doesn't really
Mhm.
know that's happening. Go home, go home, go home. They keep telling him go home, and he's like, but there's something wrong here. Just go home. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
a cop being told go home. It's like, and then he goes
Mhm.
home. So that's where his role is in that film. And and he had an accident where he saved a life when he was a kid. This car came off a bridge, went into the water, and he's that kind of guy. He jumps in to save her, and the car kind of tips over and traps them inside. And as he's trying to hit the window, he's slamming his ear against the window.
Right.
And that's what made one of his ears deaf, a really, really poor hearing. So he only has one good ear, and that comes into play later on in the
It
film.
it definitely does come into play later in the movie, and throughout the movie, they do a good job of referencing it to never to make sure that we never forget about it. So we know
Yeah.
the whole time. So when the moment comes when it comes into play, then we're all in with what's happening. You met like we talked about Keitel, De Niro, Michael Rappaport, Ray Liotta. It's a true ensemble cast. So Stallone he's clearly the main character, but there's so
Yeah,
much
that's it right there.
around him. There you go. There's so much around him uh that and he doesn't have to be on the screen every moment. And I think that is a
Right.
that helps the movie along. I don't know if you felt that way or not.
It was very much almost like Departed. It's a big
Mhm.
cast, and we forgot to. I wanted to shout out these people too. Janine Garofalo is his
Yes,
little
yes.
partner, and she is like not funny. So don't expect
No.
her to be the jokey part. She's excellent in her role. Robert Patrick at T2, the
Yeah.
T1000, he's really good. And Annabella Sciorra is the girl that he saved
Mhm.
in the early days, then has a crush on throughout the film. They're fantastic.
Right. Edie Falco also in the movie.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. I do want to talk about Janine Garofalo since you brought her up.
Yeah.
Um, though, so it was different from any role that I've seen her in, and when I was younger, she was at that time when the movie came out. She was a stand-up, pretty well-known stand-up. She's still a stand-up, but at that time, she was kind of peaking,
Yeah.
and
No for comedy.
yeah, known for comedy and getting into acting. But did comedy things like Mystery Men and was it Must Love Dogs or no? Is that Cat? The Truth About Cats and Dogs? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Um,
And the reality bites. Wasn't she in that
Reality
one? I know,
Bites.
I know Renona was the lead, but I think she was also in that.
I think so. I haven't seen Reality Bites, so I'm not sure on that
Yeah.
one. So yeah, it was interesting to see her in a drama, and I did think she did very well. I was a little disappointed, not in her performance, not in her in any way. I thought that her character was just a tad underwritten. I want a little more from her, but going back to that ensemble, there's so much going on.
There's so much.
Yeah, you got to get everybody their shine time. And to be honest, when you create a pecking order with this cast, there's Robert De Niro, and we got to go through a lot more names until we get down to okay, let's take care of Janine Garofalo too. But she did do very well with that. So right off the bat, in the beginning, you talked about the first plot to cover up this whole thing, where Michael Rappaport's character supposedly has jumped off the bridge. Now, if you could place yourself back in the time when you saw this for the first time, how surprised were you, or how did it play in your mind that that wasn't the case?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Like it had been a long time since I'd seen it, and to the point where I couldn't quite remember what the deal was. I actually thought it was more like he was pushed, not jumped. Like
Hmm.
that's what I thought, because it was just convenient that, you know, Keitel was just over there, and he's like, he's gone, he jumped, he went over, and it's like, oh yeah, because I mean he was over there, so it was a very convenient moment to
Right,
stage that. And so at first I was like, oh man, so there's that. And then, so that was my initial thought, was he didn't jump, he was pushed because they have to cover that up. He did something so bad that they just had to, like a, you broke my heart,
right,
Fredo,
right.
and then pushed him. But then
Yeah,
but as a few things were going on, then I was like, oh wait, he's not
right,
gone.
right. And initially that was my thought. I was like, okay, they pushed him off this bridge, and they're gonna come up with this whole story. And they did come up with the whole story. They did come
Yeah.
up with a lot. But yeah,
And the
they.
reveal comes pretty quick. Like the fact that
Mhm.
he's still around was much quicker than I had remembered. I was like, oh wow, okay, so that plot point is in your face pretty fast.
Right. So if anybody out there hasn't seen it, that's not really a spoiler. Uh slight, maybe slight spoiler, but not really spoiler. It's something that happens early on, and like you said, it gets revealed pretty quickly. I'm gonna pause just a second because M is calling me out here. He says, "Hey, Huck Dell said he likes the X-Men movies better than the Lord of the Rings." Yes, Emmett, they're better than the Lord of the Rings.
Now, see, the which X-Men movies is Emmett referring to? Which of the X-Men do you think, are
That
all
is
of them?
true. That is true. I will say no, not all of them. I do
Okay,
like Lord of the Rings movies. I don't love them. Let me put it that way. So I have the theatrical versions on Blu-ray, and I'm fine with that. I don't
and
need
you're
the
happy with
extended
that.
cut before. I don't need all that for Lord of the Rings because I'm not going to spend 4.5 or 8 hours or however long each cut is for, for each of those movies. But I know a lot of
Yeah,
you do, and that's great. Not my cup of tea, but yeah, not all the X-Men movies are good. So I
right
agree
on.
with
Yeah.
that.
I will have to say though, Emmett probably knows I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. We love that here. Even showed them to our daughter, the long ones too. Like I got the 4Ks here, and man, did they hold up? They held up so well.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched them, so I'm gonna have to give them a go again at some point. It's about that time. It's been a few years. Vinicio says smash the like button for my bros. Thank you,
Yes.
Vinicio.
Let's
All
get the
right, so let's
shirt
get
says.
let's get back to Copland. Um, so we got De Niro is like I said, he's an internal affairs agent, and his partner Malik Yoba. I was drawing a blank on his name. Malik Yoba plays his partner. I don't know if you're familiar with Malik Yoba, but if you were a 90s urban TV watcher, you would know him from New York Undercover. And he's been in a few movies since. But anyway, the two of them are trying to investigate things going on, and of course they're getting the runaround. And so how did you think that was portrayed in the movie as far as their interactions with not really each other so much, but more with the people that they were investigating?
Um, I there probably could have been more scenes of that. I felt like those were a little separate in their goings on, but there
Hmm.
was obviously a few scenes where De Niro just happens to be in that little market where they were, and they have like Keitel and De Niro have a little exchange, and you can tell De Niro wasn't, he was just placating them. He wants them to go down. So there's great little moments like like that. But I thought the two of them were pretty good. It definitely leaned more on Keitel and the family than spending this equal amount of time with De Niro.
Right.
I sort of like he was like a third of the movie, like their presence.
Right.
But it was
Right.
enough. It was enough for me because, like you said, it's so stacked. It's such a big cast. Like without making it a 2.5 hour movie, um, I think there was a nice disbursement of time. Did you
Yeah.
think it
And
was missing a little something?
no, for me, it actually worked out. I thought it was a pretty good amount because if you go too many times with De Niro interacting with them, then yeah, the story just starts to get stretched out and maybe things start to drag a little. But I think the movie was more interested in is not just showing that aspect of the story, but then giving us a lived in movie. So we get to
Yeah,
see their
that's great.
community
Lived it.
and how they all interact with each other and their lives, uh, not just as far as their crime or crime fighting goes, but we get a pretty well-rounded view of the community as a whole, not necessarily every single character of it. So I thought that really worked out, and even with the wives, they got a good amount of time on screen. So it really felt like a tight knit community. We weren't just told that, we were shown, which is always more powerful for me.
And dude, can I tell you, like, and I'm getting little chills here. This is like the Adrian Rocky thing. How great was the chemistry between Stallone and Annabella Sciorra? I
Oh,
thought
it
they
was
genuinely had nice chemistry together that I was like, I haven't really, because Stallone doesn't often have romances in his movie.
right.
I mean, if you really think about it, he doesn't do, I mean, even like the Demolition Man, there's not really like that connection between him and Sandra
No,
Bullock,
it's
but
just
there
a
was a great connection here. I felt it was real nice. Like so much so
yeah,
that I felt bad whenever, she was like coming down on him, because you guys got to see the movie to understand their relationship and why it's so awkward.
yeah.
But
It is awkward and one that shouldn't go any further, but both parties are kind of they're like right on the edge there.
they
Uh,
need each other though. They needed
yes,
each other. Yeah. Oh, that was good.
yes,
I
yeah.
just I enjoyed that.
They did have really nice chemistry. And like you said, Stallone not known for romance. It's really Rocky one, maybe Rocky two, is as far
Oh
as
yeah,
romance
Rocky
goes.
2 for sure, because remember she was in the hospital and he goes in there, this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
so touching. And he's like, I ain't gonna go, I ain't gonna go. And she's like, do one thing for me, win. And he's
right,
just like,
right.
win. And I'm like, oh, that's from just it's so good.
Yeah, other than that, for most of his movies, especially, all of his action movies, is there's the girl there, and maybe he gets the girl at the end, but there's not really a connection that we really feel throughout the
Exactly.
film. But this was different, and her being the actress that she is also helped that out a lot. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. We got a couple of new pop-ins. Tiana is here. Tiana loves
Hey
movies. She
Tiana.
says, "Hey everyone," and I'll have her up here in a few weeks. Actually, she'll be on hot seat over there, so to speak. And we have now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to try to say this. I have Mirha Pujola or Pujola. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering it. Please give me a phonetic sounding out in the chat. And this person is, I think, my latest subscriber or one of my latest subscribers. So I really appreciate you giving me the sub and being here tonight. Obviously.
Yeah,
All right,
Merha comes from the morning mug. She found me
Mirha,
over there.
thank
So
you.
she
Okay,
I
thank
love
you,
Merha. Yeah. So she
thank
got a
you.
cute little kitty. Yeah. She's fantastic. What's up, baby?
I appreciate you helping me out with the pronunciation. And again, I'm sorry
I
if
hope
I
I'm
butchered
saying it
your
right.
name. Let us know. Is Huck saying it right? If Huck saying it right,
I'm
because
pretty good. Like when I see like languages, I'm pretty good. Like my guess, Merha, would be Merha Pajola. That would
okay,
be my guess on that. So we'll see. Well, she can correct me. Either nailed it or close.
Right, right.
So yeah.
And yeah, don't be afraid to correct either of us
Yeah,
because I
we're
mean
tough. We're
we're
good.
tough, and I want to get it right. I want to get it right for you. All right,
She's one of my
so
babes.
yeah, so the movies rolls along, and now I did feel it at a couple of points it moved a little bit slow for me, but it would pick back up pretty quickly, so that didn't last too long. Um, and another interesting relationship, really, for me was with Ray Liotta's character and Michael Rappaport. So they had an interesting relationship back and forth, and and of course Harvey Keitel's character, who everybody was clearly petrified of.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Yeah.
so
Rightfully so.
yeah, rightfully so, rightfully so. So my question now, we get to the almost to the end, but we're halfway through the movie probably at this point. And at this point, you got to remember De Niro, or we to let people kind of know, De Niro is kind of trying to recruit Stallone's character
Yeah.
to help him out,
Be
but
his eyes and ears.
right, but he's kind
Mm-hmm.
of reluctant to that because he knows who butters his bread and what
Right.
could happen to him. And so at this point, we have all of those things going on. Uh, are there any good guys at that point?
That's a good question. Like, obviously, your brain says, well, Stallone is the only good guy, but he's really like, he's the best guy, not necessarily good
Yeah,
guy, but he's
right,
of
right.
all of them, he's the best because he's well meaning. That's the difference. Like
Hmm.
he knows his place, but that's how that town is. And so he's well meaning until he gets pushed to the point where he actually needs to know what the real deal is and push back a little bit, which you're not used to him seeing for most of the film. So that becomes a really nice character arc for him.
Yes,
You guys
yes,
got to
it
check this out.
absolutely
If you haven't
does.
seen Cop Nine, it's so good.
Yeah, I would recommend, and I'll get to that at the end when I get to my overall thoughts on the movie. I would definitely recommend checking it out. And just we talked about chemistry, and we talked about Janine Garofalo a little bit, and we talked about Stallone's chemistry with Annabelle Sciorra, but he also did have pretty good chemistry with Garofalo, I thought.
Oh
And
yeah, I know, right?
yeah, and it wasn't in a romantic way.
No.
These people, they felt like real partners, and I, one of the things about her performance is you could sense her frustration with everything, and Stallone in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of came to a head for me. Her For me, one of her biggest scene was really the traffic stop where she stops the officers who come speeding through her speed trap. Can you walk them through that scene a little bit?
Well, yeah. So the two of them are just kind of chilling in a car. It's Stallone and her, and they're just there's such a routine to their stuff, which is just, and it's funny because like he's the sheriff and she's like sort of the next in line, if you will, or one of them, and they're just doing menial things. Like you would think this
Hmm.
is below them, and anyway, so that they clock this car and they take off after it, and it's a car, and Stallone, his character, he's familiar with everyone's car that's from that family, Harvey Keitel's family, and they're in a new car this time. So when they pull him over, she goes to the car, and they're doing the whole male chauvinistic, "Hey toots, hey baby, just
Hmm. Hmm.
you don't, you know who we are," kind of thing. And she's like, "I don't care. Give me your license and registration." And then they call out Stallone to kind of shut her up and put the woman in her place. And it was so male chauvinistic, but she was pissed. Like she wasn't really having that. Like she doesn't go for that kind of like behavior, and Stallone didn't either. He just sort of kind of, to protect her, just kind of said, just I got this, I got this. And she's like, no, like she's constantly like, I don't care who these jackoffs are.
Right,
So,
right.
that really showed you, like you said, that chemistry between them. And even, obviously Stallone sees something in that car too. We won't give tip too much about that, but
Right.
he's just kind of stunned that they're there, and then they're on their way. And then later though, when Janine, he keeps wanting to investigate the situation, but De Niro gets shut down because basically Ray Liotta and team or Hard Keitel, and they kind of pay off the people that have the case open, and it gets shut
Hmm.
down.
Hmm.
And so Stallone still wants to do now. Now it's when he's like feels like he sees something wrong, and he kind of swipes these things, and she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't want any part of this. And that's when you kind of figure she came to this town to kind of help out, and she just feels like she can't. Like even with him there, like
Right.
she can't deal with the incompetence that's in this town, and just leaves. And you feel bad for her. Like this is where you take the character that you're saying was underwritten, but you do like embrace all those little moments, and you can sort of
Hmm.
expand in your brain where she's coming from. Maybe she came from a bigger place, and she wanted to be a big fish in a little pond and make a difference,
Hmm.
but she found out that this corruption isn't allowing her to do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. She figured out, everybody here is a shill for those guys. so,
yeah.
so we can't have any parts of that. So we do get to that part where Stallone's character finally he gets pushed, and I'm assuming the finale is one spectacular scene that you were talking about. He has a couple of spectacular scenes. What was the other?
Stallone, like
Yeah,
acting wise.
yeah. You said he had two.
Well, there's a huge scene in the bar when Stallone is confronting or talking to Keitel and the family. That was like a big old like 2-3 minute scene that was just really established the relationship to them. And then there
Mhm,
was the great scene with De Niro where they came in, and he was talking about coming in and investigating what's going on with Stallone. And that was just like, I mean, to me, that's just masterclass of acting on both parts. It was just nice to see Stallone in like this is what I miss with Stallone. That I'm sorry for all you Schwarzenegger lovers out there. I get it, but that what Stallone is able to do in this film isn't really something Arnold can do, or at least he's never shown he can do it. I think as Arnold's getting older, I think he's given those type of things a little bit more of a go.
yes.
But
Yeah.
Arnold was just always the go get him action over the top quip, one
Right.
liner, that kind of action star, and he's perfect. But Stallone always had a little bit more something when it came to acting, and this film shows that. And I just wish there were more films with Stallone with acting like this. Like I loved him as an action star, clearly, but boy, when you see this kind of film, I almost wish that Mangold would do another film and put Sly in it, just so we can see some more of this Stallone.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely
So
more of
those are
this.
the two
And and
scenes in
and,
general.
and people forget. I mentioned Rocky and First Blood. Those are not really big action movies. And I heard you talking
Oh
with
yeah,
John
no,
about the Rocky movies. Rocky One, it's a drama. It's a romance drama. It just happens to have boxing in it.
it has some
So,
boxing at the end. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So he
it's a
he
hundred
he
percent
does
a
get
love
to
story.
yeah, he does get to flex his chops a bit. First Blood is kind of not a romance, but it's really a psychological drama about Vietnam vets, and he does get into more acting there. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I wish we had more of that just to defend Schwarzenegger a little bit. Uh, as he's gotten older, yes, he's done more of those things. I would say, for me, one of his better performances was in the zombie movie Maggie. I don't know if you're familiar with that or if you've seen that or not.
Mm-mm. Maggie,
Came out,
no.
I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. Came out. Maggie came out, and his daughter is it Chloe Grace Moretz, I believe, plays his
Yeah,
daughter. She gets infected, and it's after the zombie apocalypse, pretty much. And so she gets infected, but it takes a certain number of weeks for the change to actually happen. So he's basically living with and taking care of his daughter for all through that time. And it's not a zombie movie like Train to Busan where it's just mile a minute, kind of thing.
right.
It's more of a zombie drama than a zombie action flick or horror flick. But I thought he did really well in that. But that's off topic. Um, for Sly, he was, like I said this before, but he really did give some of his best acting here. Um, and I'm trying to backtrack to where exactly we were. The scene I was going to mention. So he goes and he's not actually ending yet. De Niro just got the news that the case has been shut down, and
Yeah.
he's flipping out a little bit. And then Sly comes in wanting to help. Sloan comes in, he was wanting to help. And De Niro's basic reaction is like, "You jackass, you're too late. I tried to
Yeah.
get you
You're
all
too
this
late.
time. Yeah, you're too late." But my favorite line, one of my favorite lines of the movie, and I'm gonna have to paraphrase it because I don't memorize it, is after Stallone characters walked out, De Niro looks over at his partner. He's like, if he screws this up, we got a case again.
Yeah,
And
that was great. He goes, yeah,
yeah,
he's like, if our golden boy screws up, we're back in.
yeah,
I'm
we're
like,
back in. We're
it's
back
like
in.
it's almost like they wanted that to happen. That was like great scene number 3, by the way. That was and that was the scene where Stallone got to have a little bit more say in that scene because he
Hmm.
was amped up. And then
Yeah,
of course
yeah,
the files that he needed just happened to be right on top, you know.
yep. And that for me, when I heard them say that, that put me on high alert. I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, what's gonna happen? What is about to happen?"
I thought the
And
same thing. I'm like, damn.
yeah, and we got a couple people at least mentioned in Copland, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah,
give
let's
them
check
some
it out.
shine here. And yeah, Capri said she loves Copland, and Jerry has popped in. He says, "What's up?" And the Twins. Copland is a great film. Watched it for the first time last year. Very cool, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it because I also enjoyed it. Laren watched Copland a few weeks ago for the first time. Superboy, yes, he called him Superboy, Michael Rappaport's character, and that was because he saved like 6 lives or something like that before the scene at the beginning. He had
Hmm.
saved so many lives, so they were calling him Superboy. And there's some back and forth going on. Tony's movies and more is here. It says, "Hey
Tony.
Dell and Huck, what's going on, Tony?" And we're about 17. So we're holding pretty steady here so far tonight. Thank you for joining us, everybody here in the chat. And Vin says, "Enjoyed Copland. I do feel like Stallone was outacted by all his co-stars. Unpopular opinion. I would say I wouldn't say that's an unpopular opinion because look at who his co-stars are.
Hmm.
I mean, they
And
were
they inherently had more dialogue, like because his character is just sort of a meek person. He's not very confrontational, so he's less inclined to, go against all the other guys who, yeah, would just chew up the scene. But also acting isn't necessarily talking. Acting is
mhm,
also reacting, and
right,
Stallone's reactions were on point in all of those scenes. Because it's like it takes a lot for a guy who's known to kick everyone's ass to feel like everyone else in the scene could kick his ass despite
right,
being Stallone. Even Rappaport, if he got a good swing in, because of Stallone's like, he just feels like he's this kind of guy who doesn't believe in like starting a fight.
right. He's
And
definitely
everyone else is just a scrappy badger.
yeah. He's kind of a let's just all get along kind of guy and just keep the peace and mosey on. And yeah, no, the other people in the movie are just not that. And that juxtaposition
Yeah.
between his demeanor and theirs is another thing that makes the movie really go, at least in my humble opinion. And we got Bob's Blu-rays in the house. So I think Bob is he's on the other stream if anybody didn't know. So I think he's kind of on the stream and doing this off the side, at least popping in and
Like,
say,
hey
"Hey,
guys.
yeah." So he said he'll be catching the replay. Thanks, Bob. And I'll be doing the same for the other stream because there's nothing wrong with checking out all the other folks. And up, we got another comment about Stallone down here. So love that Stallone is a bit more subdued in this role, regular guy dealing with a disability.
Yeah.
Yes,
Here, here.
absolutely. And she continues on. His disability has limited his ability to do the job he's longed for. Just seems to be getting by in his local police role. He allows himself to be a bit used by the city cops. More than a bit used, I would be honest with you.
Yeah,
More than a The Jerry's watching the Knicks game. Let me know. I'm a Knicks fan,
nice.
Jerry. Let me know how that's going. So I'm a lifelong Knicks fan. When they won the NBA title, I was 2 years old, so I never really got to experience them winning one, and I'm sure I won't this year. But hey, one can dream.
Always. KB.
Always. KB, I always say Copland is the most Scorsese film that Marty never made.
That's really on the nose. It does
That's
feel like
pretty
one.
good. That's pretty good. Now, I was thinking about it because I can't remember if it was KB that said it before. I heard someone else say this. I think it might have been KB um, say this. And as I'm watching it, before we get to the very end, I'm like, okay, I can see where they're going with it, but there was not quite the Scorsese magic to it. And that's no knock against the film because it's Scorsese. Um, or Scorsese. I don't know how you want to say it,
It's all good.
but
Good enough.
but then when we get into that third act of the film, I thought when all the pieces start to fall into place, I definitely can understand that sentiment. That was really good for me. And his Larry, I guess he's explaining to someone else. He's mostly deaf in one ear, like my junior high geography teacher.
Oh,
Wow,
look at that.
that great recall. Great cast in this one, absolutely. And I'm sure we missed a few names that are in this cast. Annabella Square was great in this film. Yes, she was.
Yeah, she was so good.
She was. Cinema Man. What's great about the ending of Copland is we get to hear what Stallone hears after they shoot the gun in his good ear, and his character shifts into police officer more than sheriff. Now that was a big moment for me. Um, was that whole audio thing?
Yeah.
That was cool. And it reminded me, even though, of course, that movie's a lot more recent, so I'm sure that was inspired, at least in part, by Copland. But it reminded me of parts of Sound of Metal. Have you seen that, Huck?
Yeah, I know the one
So,
you're talking about. Yeah.
right. So in that movie, the character's going deaf, and we get a lot of that same kind of thing. And it was done to great effect at the end of this movie as well.
Yeah, I remember
Nick,
the first time I saw that, I was just like the sound design was so nice that they did it from his perspective. So you could really, I mean, like he doesn't hear somebody coming up behind him, with a
right.
gun, and that he's very vulnerable while still trying to get stuff done.
Yeah, definitely trying to get stuff done. Nick is in the house. He says late to the party, everyone. Nah, you're right on time, Nick. Hope
Going on,
all
Nick?
is Hope all is well, Dylan Hugs. Great to see a movie swap. And I'm pretty sure you are gonna be off to bed. I know you got to get up and drive those trucks in the morning. So thanks for popping in. And if you are gonna stick around, hey, I would love that too. Okay, here we go. Do we have something? Here we go. I appreciate you guys trying to say my name. Finnish, so we know she's Finnish, is one of the most
Yeah.
difficult languages in the world. I like your pronunciation, Huck. You are the only one who ever got the mir bit correctly. So I'm going to follow your lead. So it's going to be Mirha for me too. Thank you, Huck,
Although if you go to
for
the next one,
putting
she
me on that
says
path.
"ya" is pronounced
I'm going here. Ya
yes.
is pronounced like ya, though. So Mirya. Okay.
Yeah, so Maria.
Ja like ya, duh. Okay. So Mirya. Okay. Got it. Mirya. Okay. So I'm
Well, I
gonna
think it's like I always say, I would say Merha, so it's Merhya. So
got
Merya,
it.
not
Okay.
Mer. So not
Mir.
Mer. If she's saying I got it right, then I would say it's Merya.
Hey,
But
I'm
see,
with you. I'm
we
there.
want to get it right for you, Merya.
You know, one thing about these live streams, you never know exactly what's gonna happen. So we got a language class going. We got a
Right?
little Rosetta Stone happening here, and I'm cool with that.
Learning some Finnish tonight.
There we go. We got Mega Mike popped in. He says just wanted to stop by and support and say hello to everyone. You're both awesome. Thank you, Mike.
What's going on, Mike?
Really appreciate it. And then our friend says, I'm not even going to try with the surname though. Just know that it means north. Okay.
Okay. That'll
I
work.
like it. I like it. We got some more comments about the movie. Love those. Stallone had great range in this film. Agreed, Huck. They really showcase his ability to do more drama.
Hmm.
Yes, they actually did. And yeah, I'm with you. Need more drama. I don't need any more Stallone comedy though. Just leave that alone
Yeah.
and go with the more drama though. We need more drama. Uh Twins again. Maggie is underrated in my opinion. I agree. Maggie is
I'll have to check that
concerns.
out.
I
Yeah.
love to see Arnold in more of a dramatic role in this film. Very different style of zombie film. Yeah, absolutely. Like there, this is not a run from zombies, 100 miles an hour kind of film. It's not Night of the Living Dead even.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely a drama. KB, I really like Maggie. It's subtle, but it works. And KB, sorry, Nick, I've never seen Maggie. Didn't even know it was a zombie movie. And it is completely a zombie movie, but it is definitely a different kind of that. Somebody's going to see Evil Dead Rise tonight. Cinema Man
Nice.
is going to it, and up there talking about that movie trip. He says, "I'm excited. Think you'll have a great time." I went and saw it last week. I had a good time with it. Have you seen Evil Dead Rise yet, Huh?
No, this weekend I flipped a coin. It was either going to be that or Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons I felt like was more on its way out. And
Okay,
I had a good time with that. So
okay. I we were supposed to go see it. My wife and I we were supposed to go see it. Some things came up. We didn't make it. And I snuck out in the middle of the week to see Evil Dead Rise, and she doesn't do
yeah,
horror, so I was sitting
right.
there by myself and drenched in blood as it was coming off the screen.
Good stuff, man.
So, and so true, Huck. Acting is also about the visual and small
Mhm.
nuances. It's also what is not being said.
Very much
Absolutely.
so. That's what I loved about Stallone's performance. Like in his face, it wasn't just him not speaking, it was what was going on while he's being berated by all these stronger characters that I found just equally like when it would cut to Stallone, I'd be checking him out, you know?
Right, right. Just to see what he's doing, what he's if you can get a read on what he's thinking. Because yeah, it's a lot of him just kind of listening to other characters and then as they're talking, trying to figure out what he should do or say. And he did that very well. That came through in his performance.
Yeah.
James
Even
Mangold, Cinema Man. James Mangold directed Tom Cruise Night and Day, which is a film that doesn't get enough love. I,
mm,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm sorry, I did not like Night and Day. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I did not know that James Mangold directed that. I feel like giving it a second shot now. I thought it was okay. When I saw it, but I did pick it up. I found it in one of those boxes during when I was at the my thrift store lady.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I'm also a Tom Cruise fan, so I'm kind of just if I can collect them on the cheap, I do that. So I'll
Right.
give that another look. But the other thing I want to say about Stallone though is his vocal choice. He had a very soft voice as well, like almost like
Yes.
he was pitching his, "Hey, it's okay, y'all." Like he was almost pitching his voice up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Until you got to the scene where he was in De Niro's office, he's like, "I gotta take these guys down," and then finally that Stallone voice finally came out, but
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, it was always a fairly soft, high-pitched tone. I was like, "Oh, look at him, man." Like I applaud all of his choices for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. He did an excellent job. And you got a thumbs up, Huck.
Thank you. Hope I remember that next week.
Caprice loved Evil Dead Rise.
Sweet.
And
I gotta go see that.
KB, same Caprice. He also loved it. And have a good stream. DELL and Huckster. Thank you, Cinema Man. All right. So I don't want to spoil the final scene in case anybody hasn't seen Copland. The finale, so to speak, is because it's more than once. It's an extended scene, I guess you would say. But it is an
Yeah.
exciting scene, and it definitely definitely ties up the movie in a way that it's satisfying. Let me put it that way. It's a satisfying conclusion to the movie. Before I completely put it to bed, is there anything that I didn't touch on or we didn't touch on that you wanted to bring up about it?
No, I think just at the last minute there, bringing up Stallone's vocal choice was the only thing off to the side I wanted to bring up. Otherwise, I think we've hit all the scenes. Praised each actor in their own little roles. Um, yeah, it's just a really great drama, y'all. And I know Dell, you said you thought it was lagging in a few places, but I also
Just a
have this
couple
thing
things.
that I also have this thing that when there's great acting going on, if that's the slow, I'm never like bored in those moments. I don't know if those were
Right.
the parts that seemed slow, but
Hmm.
so I actually didn't feel any drag when I saw it. And also, Peter
Right.
Berg is in this film too. Peter Berg plays another crooked cop who is the husband of Annabella's Cure, who is just a total dirtbag. So
Yeah.
it's so yeah, there you go. That's all I got.
Is part of the lag is probably on me, to be honest with you, because it was a little bit late when I started the movie. So
Ah, yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
there's something not when it's slowing down a little bit, it's not that it's bad, but that's the parts where it's like, okay,
It's
I'm
late.
holding on. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
holding
yeah.
on. Let's get
Yeah,
there.
I did the opposite. I got up early, and as soon as I got my girls off to work and school, I popped it in before work because I wanted to squeeze it in. So I was like up and alert and like, get it, Stallone. So yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
There
So,
you go.
and a rewatch might be a little bit different, and it usually is, especially after a stream like this, because then I have more things to go on and look for and notice and see. And of course, I'm always looking for what I missed before. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my overall thoughts. That I like it, not like it, and would I recommend it? And I think it's pretty clear. But at this point, I did really enjoy the movie. The acting was phenomenal, and I know we spent a lot of time on Stallone's acting, and it's not to say that he's better necessarily than any of his co-stars, but most of his co-stars are renowned actors. you know, they're
Hmm.
they're
Yeah.
that is what they're known for. They're known for acting, where he is kind of known for being a movie star, which is not always the same thing. And here he showed that he can also be an actor. So when you get somebody who's really goes against what they're known for and does a really good job at it, it's kind of easy to kind of gush over that person. And I think that's kind of where we both are. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
guessing.
yeah.
Yeah. So the cast again as a whole phenomenal. The writing, we didn't really touch too much on the writing, but the writing has to carry all that weight. It has to move the story along and make sure that we get enough from every character and still be a cohesive whole. And I thought it was really written very well. It did just that. And like I said before, it created a well lived in community, a tight
Very.
knit community at that. So it wasn't one of those things where we just get bits and pieces and they just keep telling us they're tight knit. No, they keep showing us that it's a tight knit community. And if you're a creator at all, you've probably heard show don't tell. Showing is the much better way than just telling. So if you have a movie where the one character is always screaming about how we're all so tight knit, and or just for instance, the Fast and Furious movies, which I like. Definitely a fan of Fast and Furious movies. But every 5 minutes, Vin Diesel between cars jumping off buildings, he's going family, and he's got to keep
Yeah.
telling, keep reinforcing that idea that
And
they're
we
this
get
tight
it.
knit group. And in reality, this each person just has a personality trait, and that's who they are for the entire thing. Copland's different, and that they never really they mention that, hey, these guys are all doing this thing, and they're kind of all together. But the movie as a whole shows us that, which is so much better than one of them just saying it. So that when one character steps outside of that, whether it's Stallone or whether it's one of the other characters, because somebody else does step out towards the end of the movie, we feel the strain on them getting out from underneath the thing that they're so familiar with. So, and I thought that added weight to the final scene because you know how Stallone has functioned for years within this whole situation, and in the end, it becomes an excellent movie. And I would definitely recommend it to anybody who's into crime dramas. If you're into cop movies, definitely recommend it. And if you just don't believe Stallone can act at all, I would recommend uh,
Yeah,
Copland. So that's where I fall on it. So a
nice.
winner for me, and I'm
I'm
sure it
glad to
was.
hear that. Yeah, and it's not in, and just remember all the other pedigree that's in the film. If you just love watching those people act, then go watch it for them. If you miss Ray Liotta, go watch it for Ray Liotta being amazing. And then you're gonna get everything. And I was looking up real quick, Mangold wrote it as well.
Yeah.
Since we were
Okay.
talking about the writing, I wanted to call out who wrote that. And this was also a film that when the Oscars rolled around, I swear, dude, I was telling myself, Stallone needs a nomination. I don't know if he'd win, but like he sort of was back to form like he was in the first Rocky, which he was nominated for. And then all the other actors, I'm like, oh, who's going to get the supporting role? And then it got like nothing. Like the awards and nominations, it has one win and one nomination, and
Mm.
it's like the Turkish Film Critics Association and
Oh.
Stockholm Film Festival.
Oh. So nothing from the good old U.S. of A.
No, in fact, Stallone won Best Actor in the Stockholm Film Festival, but I mean those are the only two, and I'm like that shocked me when awards rolled around. I'm like, how is this overlooked? I feel like if you made this today, this would be an absolute darling at the Oscars.
Hmm. Now
It's
it's
just
a
got that kind of
movie.
stuff.
So I did want to mention this because I've been a movie fan all my life, and I've been a Stallone fan pretty much all my life. And this movie came out and I heard about it. I heard the hype even about Stallone back then. It was like, oh, this is a different Stallone. But to be honest with you, at that time, I wasn't interested. I wanted more. I wanted more Rocky, Rambo, Demolition Man, Tango and Cash. I wanted that, and I knew that this wasn't going to give me that. So I was like, I'll get to
That's
it
not the
one of
one I
these.
want to see. Yeah.
Not the one I wanted to see. So I avoided it. Not avoided it. Well, at that time, avoided it, and then as time passed, it just kind of forgotten about it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm glad I caught up with it. Thank you, Hug, for
Nice.
recommending that. And I'm gonna go through the chat a little bit before I move on. Before we move on to the next movie, Laren just wanted to mention I love the Water Tower, and we have Nerdy Film Girl is in the house. Hey, how you
Hey,
doing?
Nerdy Film Girl.
And she says, "Happy Tuesday, everyone. Love Del Swap and love Hugs channel. Cheers, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us." And we got some people saying hi to Tracy and cheers. And overall, it's a great film for me because yes, I would agree. And Caprice agrees also.
All right, we
So
got some winner here, y'all. Nice.
we got a winner. We got a lot of winners. And again, if you're in the chat and you haven't seen Copland, or even if you're not in the chat, but you're just watching and you haven't seen Copland, I would definitely recommend that you give it a look. And Mike says my shirt is awesome. Smash that like. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. All right. So let's we're gonna move away from Copland. We're gonna switch gears completely, and we're gonna talk about the movie that I recommended for you. So this movie is an action movie. So Stallone could possibly have been in this movie, because it's an action movie.
I think
Um,
more Jackie Chan, probably.
More Jackie Chan probably,
Yeah.
and this one is it's also an Indonesian film, so we're foreign. And if some of you that might have rang alarms, and you know what I'm about to say, but this movie is a martial arts movie. I'm a big martial arts movie fan, and for me, this one is one of the best. At least in again, just for me, if not for anybody else. We're gonna find out how Huck feels about it in a little bit. But that movie is The Raid Redemption. or the raid as it's known everywhere in the world, except here in the good old USA. And in this movie, our main character is Rama. He's played by Iko Uwais. I think I'm saying that one right also. Um, he is a police officer, and we meet him before he's actually going to work. He's kind of getting his workout, his morning workout in, and we find out that he's got a pregnant wife, and he's saying his prayers on the way out the door, and we get a little flashback in there. We find he says, I'll bring him back," and then off to work he goes. When we next see him, he is basically in a paddy wagon, not a paddy wagon, or a SWAT truck, big truck
Mhm.
with a bunch of police officers, like a SWAT team, and he is one of the 20 officers that are going to go into this tenement building that is run by a crime lord, and most of the tenants in the building are also criminals. They're his
Yeah.
tenants, and they basically pay him for safe haven, and this unit is going to go in there and bust it up. So they go in, and there's not much more story than that. We get a little bit here and there. The story's mostly told through the action. And well, things kind of get set off because one of the cops has a quick trigger finger. And they see one of the lookouts, and a shot gets fired, and then the movie just never lets up from there.
Yeah.
So first, before we even get into the building, Huck, there is a tenant that is kind of trying to get in the building, and they keep telling him to stand down. Where's your head at that point? What are you thinking about this guy and his interaction with the team?
Uh, when you put moments like that in, there's always a callback. You don't just have a guy trying to get in and not have some sort of payoff with that character. And so I knew at some point, like, his presence was going to be needed again, or have reference. And sure enough, he did. And he felt like one of the few tenants who isn't there
Right,
as a bad guy. He's one of the few tenants that's actually there because that's where he's unlucky enough to live.
right,
And he has a sick wife, and he's just trying to bring her medicine to make her feel better. And our lead, Rama, is trying to keep him from going up. And then the difference is, like, Rama and then the other guy. There's a real go-getter, and then there's Rama, who's very sympathetic to just people. And
hmm,
and it's him trying to, like, and he's like, and so the other guy, I forget his name, but he's like, okay, you know what? He's your deal. You stay with him, and if he gets in the way, that's on you. So all right, let's all go in, and you're with him.
right.
That's your baggage now. And I'm like, wow, okay. So you see where this is going. I'm like, all right. And look, and he even tells him what room he's gonna. You're like, what floor are you on? I'm on, like, what was it, like 470 or something.
Seven,
So I'm like,
seven, 726, I think it was.
720. And I'm like, oh, look, and
726.
they told him the name, and he remembered the room. I'm like, this is all coming back into play. I can see it coming. Um, so yeah,
Right.
so that was nice. Like,
So
that was my initial take on that.
yeah, and his interaction with him with Rama also kind of set up Rama so that we know who we're dealing with,
Yes, right.
because he's Rama's not the first person he comes into contact with. Like you said, he's got the other guy, and the other guy is just a complete jerk, and he's basically threatening the guy's life, if he
Yeah,
doesn't get
yeah,
out the way. And then
yeah.
Rama steps in and handles it like you said. We get into the building, and we get the lookout. And when that shot gets fired, the first time I saw this movie, and that shot gets fired, because it's a little kid, and the kid, he looks over, he sees all these cops standing here, and he takes off running, and he's going to tell somebody.
Yep. Yep.
When that shot, first off, we get a little bullet time action with that shot coming out of the barrel of the gun. And so that gives us in the audience time to go, oh, what did you just do?
Yep.
What
Yep.
did you just
Yep.
do? And were you prepared for what happened next?
No, not at all. I mean, because you would never look. They take a shot at a kid. That wouldn't even happen in an American movie like that. But it also showed you what type of building you're in and what kind of people you're dealing with. That even the children are lookouts and are ready to rat you out and take you down. And the police instantly knew that that was the deal, so they had to take a shot. And of course, his little buddy is up on the other floor, and he looks down and sees his little buddy get shot in the neck. I was like, oh damn. But I will
Uh-huh.
say this: if you're weirded out about things like that, it was a very long shot, and it wasn't a graphic shot. It was just enough to show you what you're dealing with in this movie.
Right.
And that's all you needed. They don't even go back to the kid. They don't show a close up. It was just enough for you to go, holy crap. And then, like you said, it does not stop.
Right.
So
And
I wasn't ready for that, but I was like, but I knew when it happened what I was ready for.
oh yeah. And when the friend looks at him, I rewatched it again to freshen up on it a little bit. And a thing I hadn't really noticed before was when the friend sees his friend get shot, there's a moment where he's frozen, like his whole world just changed like at that moment. And then he had to kind of bring himself back into the movie. We never see this kid again,
Right.
but I thought it was a great little touch to the movie that kind of made that kind of helped also do the same thing again. React. Okay, well, what's supposed to happen now? And so he runs off, and people just start getting into place. And yeah, it doesn't let up. Now it's a martial arts movie, like I said, but first 15-20 minutes, it's mostly guns. It's mostly guns, and boy, do we get a lot of them. And yeah, that scene with the kid wasn't graphic, but there's a lot more graphic things
Oh,
that
yeah.
happen with those guns over these
Oh,
next 10,
yeah.
15, 20 minutes. Um, so we finally, we get all this fighting, and we get some wounded cops, and then we get into the meat of the movie where we have a few cops left, and all the bad guys are trying to get them. And now basically it's just, scene, what more can happen in this scene that didn't happen in the last scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
basically it.
You're like, oh, they're
And
done. That was the highlight.
yeah, and from what
Oh, you
one of
spoke.
my I
Yeah.
got you. I'm repeating, one of my favorite early scenes is the cops. They go into this apartment, and they're looking for a way out, and they know they can't go out the window. They found out they can't go out the window.
The hard way.
Right, the hard way.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
they
everybody get away
can't
from
go
the
out the
window.
window the hard way. And I'm gonna pause this thought for just a second because a few people are popping in about the movie. And KB woohoo the raid, and nerdy film girl Tracy says never seen it. I should check the raid out. You absolutely should.
You should.
Same for Mika and Kira. Definitely check it out. And we had Culture Trini pop in. What's going on, Trini?
Somebody.
And yep, and he also helps me out a bit. Gun fu, as we would say back in the days. Yes, we got some gun fu going on. So again, the cops are now there's a few of them. There's some in this apartment, and they found out the hard way. They can't go out the window. So we got Rama, and he's kind of tapping his foot on the floor, trying to find a hollow spot, a good place to cut, and calls for an axe. Takes the axe, start cutting through the floor. And I want you to give me your reaction to what happens here, because just tell us what happens, and then give me your reaction to how that happens when they finally get through.
When they bust through the floor?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that whole, you know, they're barricading themselves into this room to make that happen. And, things are coming in from all directions. You got the snipers outside the window. By the way, the snipers are never really, we don't get resolution with the snipers.
We don't.
They just sort of either at some point realize, okay, they're avoiding the windows. Now let's just go in, and they
Mhm.
become a victim. You'll just have to assume, because, they're not just going to sit there for this whole movie. But, yeah. So one of his buddies gets, like, his face is all like whacked out. Right. And they're trying to keep him quiet while going through the floor in the hole in the floor. Right. And, so wait, I'm trying to dial in the part that you're trying to get me to say is when they go
Well, I'm
through.
trying to get when that first guy actually finally they get through, they make the hole in the floor,
Right.
and that first guy is like, okay, great. I'm gone, and he
Oh,
drops down through the floor.
yeah, and they look through the thing, and then there's people down there.
Well, actually, when they look, there's no one there.
Right,
He
right.
just jumps down,
He just jumps down.
and when he
But
jumps down, that's when then he gets mobbed by.
oh yeah, it's like a zombie attack at that point. And then
Yeah.
so then the other dude has to go down, and they all have to like mop that floor. I mean, it's literally like they just keep trying to find a safe haven, and there almost is none, you know. And I just wanted to say too, why I was happy you recommended it. Raid has always been on my radar as something I wanted to see, and I don't mind that it's foreign film. I've been a martial arts fan like yourself, and I just heard that the martial arts in these are just stupendous. I remember seeing the opening gun scene way back in the day. Like, I don't know if it was on YouTube or something. I'm like, oh, and that had no martial arts in it. That was just a cool intro that I thought was very stylish and cool. So to see a film like this is one of those where you just go, there's no way anyone is getting out of this building. That's the kind of movie this is.
Right.
It's like, there's no way. 3 people now, like everyone's getting killed and shot. And we also need to mention, and I had to sort of replay the intro to see if I understood this, because I was trying to read all the subtitles. Is the guy with the white hair. He's sort of the veteran cop who basically, he's the one that wants to go take down Tama. So we have Rama and we have Tama and Jaka. We have a lot of like
right.
rhyming names. So Tama's the main bad guy. And if he can bring him in, he's kind of like crapped on by all his other higher ups at his precinct. And he thinks if he brings him in, he'll be showered with affection and appreciation, which we then learn really isn't going to happen no matter what.
Right.
And he's endangered all of these cops for his selfish act. And that's what you come to learn. And like, oh, so you don't really like this guy. It's this guy's fault that they're in the pickle that they're in. And it, like you said too, it's a very simple thing. That is the plot of the film. That is it. There's nothing deeper. There's nothing more meaningful, because it's then surrounded by all the martial arts and action and how each scene rolls into the next scene. There's a scene where they're hiding in a fake wall that was ridiculous, because it's the one guy with the ear that's blown off, and he's like in so much pain, he's just trying to hold his mouth so he doesn't even make a sound, like one little noise like that. That's it, and then, the bad guy comes in with the sword and he just kind of starts I didn't quite understand why he was stabbing the wall. I'm like, did he realize it's a fake wall? And if so, why not just open it? Like, why was he stabbing, other than to have a scene where we can see the guy's about to be stabbed? It's like, one of these magic trick boxes where the sword is like, right on his cheek, and it's like cutting into his cheek. I'm like,
Right.
And then he pulls his hand up and he kind of puts it on the blade, and he's got a glove on, so that when he pulls the blade back out, he takes the blood off.
Exactly.
And I thought, God, that is brilliant.
Yes.
So good.
It's amazing. And the scene in a movie with so much action that one of the most tense scenes is not an action scene at all. And it is that scene for me that you're talking about. And my impression always was he knew somebody could be behind there, because you got to remember, everybody in there is a criminal, so they all have hiding spots.
That's a good point. They all know that there's,
right. So and he didn't strike me as the kind of guy who wanted to take time to really look and like pull things open or try to get the wall open, because he knew that could be difficult. I'm just gonna stick my knife in there and see if I hit
I'll
something.
do it the easy way, and if I hit something, I'll know.
Exactly. If I get something, I will know. But yeah, that is a brilliant scene in the movie. And shortly after that, we get the first of 2 extended hallway battles.
Whew, yeah.
And man, all right. First time I saw this, my eyes were popping out of my head. What were some of your favorite parts of that battle, if you have any, and just your overall reaction to it?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any favorite parts, because it's such eye candy. There's so much going on. Like, that's like, I would just watch those fight scenes again. It was, I love well choreographed fights, and you show the fight. This is why I love Jackie Chan, and I rarely like American fight scenes, because it's all close-ups and edits. I'm like, knock it off. You just had a stunt team choreograph a beautiful fight. Now show us that fight, or you are doing a disservice to that team.
Mm-hmm.
And then so this team, I mean, you see these things. Oh, I will tell you the part that stands out for me is when he's fighting. I don't know if it's the same one because I feel like there's so many hallway fights, but the one where he's like, the main one of the main bad guys, the guy with the bat, and he's coming at him, or the sword or whatever it was, and all of his minions, and they all come at him. And there's this moment where he kicks a guy through a door and he breaks the door, but the door still has chunks of the door sticking up like this, and he
Mm-hmm.
grabs the guy by the head and just lands the guy on the door. And the
Really
door just,
sharp
and I
parts of the
didn't,
door.
and because of how they shot it, the door was straight on, so you didn't really see the spikes. It just looks like he face planted really hard on the ground, and then they rotate and they show through the doorway this way, and all you see are all these spikes sticking up. You're like, oh shit! Like that dude is done. That guy's just got boards in his face up to here. I was like,
Right.
damn,
Right. That
so fresh, so creative, so nice to watch.
that was the second that was the second hallway fight scene. But
Yeah,
yeah, I get it if they kind of run together. So no problems
yeah,
there. But I'm
yeah.
glad you brought up showing the fight. Because I'm with you. One of my biggest gripes with American movies, and especially a lot of the Marvel movies, even though I'm an MCU fan, but a lot of the times the fight scene is just what you said. It's all in tight and a lot of edits, and so one punch could be four different camera shots. You get this
It's
shot, and
ridiculous.
then you get it from the side, and then you get another shot, and then finally you get the punch landing, and it's just like, okay, I can't see that. What the hell is this?
What
But
just happened? Yeah,
yeah, what just happened with this movie? I thought the genius thing to me was not, because it's easy to show a fight scene if you just pull the camera back and just let it happen, which is generally what happens in a lot of Jackie Chan movies. And I love Jackie Chan, but that's generally how they shoot it, is they'll pull the camera back just so you can see what Jackie Chan is doing. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fantastic. But in this movie, there was a lot of
yeah.
camera movement, but the
Oh yeah,
movement was with the action.
with the
So
performers.
with the performers. So for instance, in that hallway scene, the first hallway scene fight anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a guy comes up to him and they start fighting, and he has a knife, or our hero has a knife, and he jams it into the guy's thigh right at the
Oh,
top,
this one. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
he
And he
yanks it down the length of his
rips
thigh.
it. Yeah.
Right. On camera though, what they did was they basically, they're coming in close, but they're not too close, and then you kind of see the camera moves with the knife into the thigh and then down the thigh as it happens, and it is, and things like that happen all throughout the movie. It was just fantastic. Fantastic cinematography as far as I'm concerned, because when we think of cinematography, we think of, really these wide shots and the beautiful vistas and
Right. Vistas and sunsets and all that stuff.
right.
Yeah.
But in this case, that wasn't what we got, but it was still masterful, the way that the camera was moving with the performers in this movie. So
Very
I
much so.
really, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Um
thing too. When you have an environment that's claustrophobic, like hallways and rooms and stuff, you just got to get the camera in there and get it as close to the subjects as you can while still seeing what you want to see, and then
mhm.
catching moments like that really graphic moment of the knees, and then pulling right back out to see the next guy coming, so he
Right,
can pull it out and throw it or whatever he's going to do. Yeah.
right.
And you
And
also learn that there's a relationship involved in this building. Maybe we won't give that one away, but there's
yeah, I don't want to quite give that one away, because we do have
yeah,
some people who haven't seen it. So I don't
yeah,
want to quite give that one away. Um, but I just, in keeping with the technical aspect of it. So back to the fight choreography, also, when you talk about seeing the next guy come in, one of the things I thought this movie did brilliantly was that did not, it wasn't too much of one guy fighting while all his friends stood around and waited their turn.
yeah,
We
yeah,
didn't get
yeah.
that.
Right.
If there was a guy not involved in the fight, he had good reason not to be involved in the
I
fight.
noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, you hit a guy 6, 7, 8 times, and he's down for a minute. He's woozy. That's why he's out. And now I'm fighting this guy. And while I'm fighting this guy, here's another guy coming up right behind me to also fight now. And then guess what? When I get rid of one of these guys or both of these guys, that other guy's getting up again. So he's coming back. And in a lot of action movies, we get the low level henchmen, so to speak. It's one hit and they're out the movie completely.
Right. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they died. That didn't happen much. So I
Oh no.
really enjoyed that.
No,
Yeah.
speaking of, yeah, this film was all about getting your ass kicked, and you continue to fight. Like, people couldn't get hit as much as they get hit and keep going. But so it does take it to that sort of, Hong Kong Kung Fu where you can get your ass kicked a lot and still be okay to keep fighting
Mm-hmm.
a long time. There's a 3-way fight that you guys are going to love. It's between like 2 people and one really main bad guy. And it is unbelievable. You know the one I'm talking about. It's one at the near
Yes, I
the end.
know exactly what
It
you're
is
talking about.
nonstop. I'm like, there's no way anybody could take a hit. But it also does exactly what you're saying. If 2 come at this one amazing guy, he takes them out, one at a time, and then really clocks one. So he goes down for the count. Then he has a choreographed fight with this one dude. And right as he's going down, the other guy's getting up, shaking it off, and he comes in to save the guy. And then that guy gets knocked down and the fight continues with this person. And then
Right.
occasionally it's 2-on-1, and it just keeps going back and forth between the 1-on-1, the 2-on-1, in such a brilliant balletic way. It was so good to see, because like I said, as a kung fu fan, that scene was just, I mean, there was many scenes that were really good. But that was obviously the crescendo, the big highlight at the end.
Yes, that was the big highlight. And yeah, don't not that you are, but I would say definitely don't forget there are a lot of amazing scenes leading up to that point.
Oh, yeah.
So it's pretty spectacular fighting going on. And that one scene, that particular bad guy we're talking about, Mad Dog.
Yeah, Mad Dog, yeah.
So he was my favorite character in the movie. Um, he was definitely a guy where soon as he came out from on high, he was up in the apartment with his boss. And
Right.
when he comes out, he kind of joins the fray, and he has a gun drawn. So he's got the drop on one of the
Oh,
cops,
yeah.
and then he puts the gun down and he kind of motions the guy over to a room off to the side. And how'd you react to that, or what'd you think was going on with that?
Oh, I'll tell you exactly what I thought. I thought it was fake. I thought when it was first happening, he was the one cop that he had the gun on, right? And this was
Yeah,
like sort of the badass cop, and not the a-hole cop. It was one of the last good cops that was left.
right.
And so you're really like, he's kind of like the guy in charge. And so they get out of this room and he's waiting out there, and he points the gun at the one cop and the rest keep running. So he lets him get away, and he just wants this one guy, and he waves him into the room, puts the gun down, shuts the door, and takes off the jacket. I went, that cop is dirty. That's
Right,
what I thought.
right.
I thought the cop is dirty, and they were just pals, right? I thought that's what was going to happen, and then a fight ensued instead.
Right, a fighting suit, and it was also a very good fight. And throughout the movie, with all of these fights, one of the things that always strikes me is, well, I get the question in my head: how did they do that without killing somebody in real life? How did they do some of this stuff? Because
Oh yeah,
these hits, I mean, they look like you're watching a real fight, even though you as a movie watcher, that there's choreography happening. But between them hitting each other and throwing someone in face first into a wall and onto the floor and
oh
hitting
man,
them with,
brutal. Yeah.
yeah. So I know you've been in more movies than I have. You have any insight into any of this?
You mean all that kind of stuff? Yeah, I mean, I see
Yeah.
people it's all about preparation, practice, and you go through all the moves, and every inch, and that's the other thing too, that the angles of the camera were so great that every swing looks like it hit. There was nothing that gave away that they missed them by a mile.
Right,
That's
right.
that's just bad camera placement. So, I mean, all I'm going to say is looking at this, there are people walking away with bruises and hurt ribs, and I mean, there's just you cannot do that physical of a fight and not, get smacked. I mean, some of those guys are just getting smacked, even if it's just their own impact on the floor to sell a good hit. They're throwing themselves on the floor. You're seeing it. It's not sugar-coated. And some of the guys are just wearing flimsy t-shirts. Now, the cops are lucky enough to maybe have body stuff underneath. So if they take a fall down the stairs or something, that they're padded and they've got the appropriate gear to really slam their bodies down. But these guys who are just wearing thin t-shirts and really loose pants, I mean, it's just trusting your fellow stuntman that they're not going to punch your face off.
Right.
So, yeah.
And now my biggest moment of how the hell did they do that was when Arama, he's fighting this guy and he throws him off basically off the
Oh,
staircase across
yeah.
the hall basically and lands on his back on the
And just,
other.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I don't know, just that moment I've probably seen 100 times. I'm like, how? And it doesn't look like a dummy to me. It doesn't look like one. So I was like, okay, somebody's gonna have to explain this to me one of these days.
I think for something like that, that is a flawless integration. Dog's about to go nuts. Sorry if he goes out. Integration of CG, because I think the body that gets thrown is CG, and then it's perfectly integrated right at the last second into a live action body, not a real body, but it's probably a fake body, but it's been
Right.
molded off of that actor. So it's been painted up to look just like his face and hair. And then when the camera pans, the body just has like a little give, and probably the CG body lands right on top of it. And the camera's moving too. So that swish pan of the camera is hiding any imperfection if that were CGI. And then so when it hits the camera, then it does like a little shake. It has to hold still so you see.
Right.
So that hides a lot of those moments. And I was like, oh yeah, when I saw that too, my brain was like, okay, how did they do that? There's no way that the
Yeah.
guy broke in half, because he's like he's like the letter U. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah. A lot. It was that's an
that was
insane.
fantastic though.
Yeah, it was pretty insane scene. Just to check in here real quick,
Yeah.
Mika and or curious, I'm definitely gonna have to see this film based on your description. Sounds good. Yeah, definitely see it and let me know how you like it. And I know you guys are big horror fans. There's plenty of gore in here just for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you'll love it. It's nasty.
Yeah, it gets pretty rough in some spots. All right, so the story carries on, and like I said, I don't want to spoil the twist in the movie or the big reveal towards the end. And we do get to that penultimate battle at the end, and again, let's try if we can talk around it a little bit. We'll talk about it but still talk around it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
kind of mentioned it before with the older cop, the white haired gentleman that gets finally. He's the one that finally gets all the way up to this apartment where the main guy is. And did it play out like you thought it was going to play?
No. No, not at all. There was some twists in that on mostly that guy's part that I didn't really see coming, because it almost made me also think he was with that guy. Like, what I mean? The things he was doing made me feel, oh, he's part of the bad guy's entourage, and yet wasn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying not to
Right,
like say too much, but by saying that, but it's like, but he was doing things that made you feel, oh, he's just as bad as Tama, the main bad guy. But no, he was just doing what he had to do to, you know, do his
right,
thing.
right,
I was
right.
like, I don't know about that, dude.
All right. So it's we're gonna go ahead and get ready to wrap it up here.
Sure.
And so let's close it out. Your overall thoughts on what you thought about. Well, before that, is there anything that, about this movie that we didn't touch on that you wanted to bring up?
I think we hit most of the cool scenes. Yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. Yeah, again, without spoiling any sort of twists or things like that. Yeah, I think we talked about just. Oh, well, I will say this: the lead guy, you say Iko. I have to look at his name, Iko Uwais.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like he had such a baby face, right? And when I
Yeah.
looked at this guy, I'm like, who's this? Like, I'm not familiar with him at all. And I'm like, you sort of do it book by the cover kind of thing. I'm like, oh, this guy can't be that. He seems like the weak guy in the group because he seems thin, but he's just lean. He's a very thin, lean badass, and he
Yes.
was amazing. Like I will say, all it takes is one scene for someone to win you over. Sort of like in Copland, all it takes is that one scene. You watch Stallone and go, okay, he's great in this film. And this kid who I've never seen before absolutely sold me as probably one of the biggest badasses I've ever seen fight on camera. And
Yes.
that makes me want to see, is he in the other raids?
He is in the other raid, and he's in a few other movies. And his one American movie that he was in, it might be more than one, but he was in Mile 22, the Mark Wahlberg movie came out a few years ago.
Okay.
Uh, in that movie, they did him a disservice by doing the American fight editing things. So
Yeah.
that was an issue. But
So
yeah,
yeah,
go.
that's it. Just I love this guy. I want to see more of his stuff because he was really good.
Okay, okay. And I'll talk about the raid two in a minute, but go ahead with your overall thoughts on this one.
All right. So going into it completely blind, not having seen it, my overall thoughts was it delivered exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see a really well choreographed, kick ass, just blow me away martial arts film that I really haven't seen in a long time. It's funny because earlier this week or last week, I watched The Octagon with Chuck Norris. I don't know if have you seen
Right.
The Octagon?
Yes, I've
And,
seen the Octane.
and it's comparatively, it's nothing. It's
Yes.
so watered
Yes.
down compared to something like this. I mean, I know that's early 80s and this is pretty recent, but so I was kind of in that mood to watch, good stuff. And this delivered that sort of really, if you love, and believe me, this is coming from a guy who loves well choreographed martial arts that you can look at and that the fight scenes are really good. And so if you're looking for that, and you haven't seen this film delivers that 100%. It's a super light plot. There's not a lot to follow. So even though if you're worried about subtitles, it does have subtitles. I mean, if you have the Blu-ray, maybe there's an English track. I don't know because I watched it on Netflix, so I watched it in the original language, which I like because you can hear the performances more organically
Hmm.
that way. And so it's not hard to follow. So don't worry about reading because look, when you're done reading the plot and the action kicks in, there's nothing to read. You just get to watch the action and it's perfect.
Right.
So yeah, so for me, I would say it's I'm glad you recommended this because it is one I wanted to see and it did not disappoint.
Good. I'm very happy to hear that. Um, the Raid 2, I will mention it because I do have this. There are only two Raid movies, the Raid and the Raid 2. We've been rumored a Raid 3 for a long time, but I don't know if we're ever going to get it. Uh, so the Raid 2, I will say the fighting is just as insane and maybe even more so in some scenes. The difference is it's a much longer movie, so it deals with more plot, more story. Uh, this is why I like the Raid a little bit more because the movies it's too long. The other movie, let me put it that way.
Is
But
it?
when there
Yeah.
is fight, there's still a lot of action, but and it's still insane fight choreography. There's a prison yard fight that's crazy. There's a fight in a moving car that's
Wow.
so I would highly recommend the Raid 2 to if you have a chance. Yes, he is still the main character in that movie, and it actually picks up almost immediately after this movie ends, which is kind of
Oh,
mind-boggling
interesting.
to
All
see
right.
because you'll get to see what happened. Um, like I said, that movie just deals with more plot, more story, and it runs over 2 hours. I'm pretty sure. Let me look
Yeah, I think it
here.
was just over there. And this also makes me think. Have you? And I haven't seen these either. Have you seen the Ong Bak movies?
Yes, I have seen Ong Bak, and
Because
that's a fantastic movie also with Tony Jaa and
yeah, because those are also you talked about that the boxes of movies I got earlier. There were
right.
two Ong Bak movies in there, and I just was giving myself $100 limit, and I put those back. But now I want to go back and grab those and
They're
just to watch.
fun. They're
Yeah,
not gory like this movie. They're not a lot of
yeah,
blood in those movies, but they're fantastic. And Tony Jaa is amazing. He does everything in those movies with no wires, and you'll see him do some pretty crazy stuff. I definitely would
wow,
recommend those. The first Ong Bak I found at a pawn shop. I paid $3 for, and then there's Ong Bak 2 and 3. I actually found at Dollar Tree, so I'm
uh,
very happy to have forgotten the whole trilogy for like $5. So, but yeah, definitely check out the Raid 2 if you have a chance. I did look at the time; it's 2.5 hours actually, so it's a pretty
wow,
lengthy movie. Yeah, compared to this was half that maybe.
yeah.
So, but it does deal with a lot more story. So it goes in a lot of different places, but the fight scenes are still just jaw dropping. So, yeah. What did I do? Okay, definitely check it out.
Hello.
And yeah, just a quick chat. We just had one more comment, and that was from the twins. Great conversation. Appreciate it, Mika and
Thank
or
you,
Kira.
lovely
Uh,
lady.
uh, Look forward to your reaction and or review of the Raid 2. And I will turn the floor over to you, sir, so you can go ahead and promote yourself and tell us about whatever it is you have coming up.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching tonight. I know there's a lot on YouTube tonight, so appreciate it. Dell, thank you for asking me to come on and do one of these. I love these things. I was like, oh, hope he calls me in for one of these, movie swaps. So it's great. I love that we enjoyed each other's film. They were fantastic, and it's fun to rewatch the one I recommended to you as well. Anyway, I'm Huck over at Huck's Pop Culture Cafe. If you haven't been there, come on over. Do a lot of fun movie related stuff like we all do. I do have trivia that I've been working on. Hopefully, I'll get that up next week or the one right after. Just gotta button it up and then fill it with some people. I have 2 people in mind already. And yeah, I got my collectors club that I do with Tim Talks Talkies and Mega Mike the Movie Man. Got the next one coming out on May 21st. That's a Sunday. We're kind of sticking to Sunday for right now, but that one will drop on Tim's channel. So look for it on Tim Talks Talkies channel. And other than that, if you got nothing to do on a Tuesday morning, come by. I do the morning mug where we just talk about movies, entertainment, box office, what's going on, and just pepper me with questions. And that's where some of these people are from as well, including Merya.
Yes,
So
absolutely,
I gave it another
absolutely.
shot.
Yep, yep. And
I was like,
I'm gonna go ahead. We got a couple of more comments. Great conversation. We already talked about that one. KB says fun time on Movie Swap tonight, fellas. Thank you, KB.
thank
That
you.
is that is my guy. And Trini says check out The Night Comes for Us. Same guy from the Raid. Yes, both the cop that we talked about a little earlier, who wound up in the one-on-one fight with Mad Dog. He is actually the main character in The Night Comes for Us. I believe that's also on Netflix, and Iko Ue is in that movie also.
Yeah,
That movie that's a fantastic action movie too. I would say the fight choreography is just it's a notch below a little bit because we do get some of that standing around waiting and fighting, but it's still phenomenal action scenes in that movie too.
sweet.
Uh,
Yeah, he was
yeah,
great too.
yeah, it is definitely fun. We'll add that as well to Liz Trini. So yes, she's gonna watch The Night Comes
The
for Us
night comes
as
for us.
also,
Nice.
and looking forward to the return of trivia. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. All right. So for me here on this channel, I misspoke last week. I actually said we were going to be on Thursday because I was going to be on Bob's stream tonight. Well, that's next Tuesday. I'm going to be on Bob's Blu-rays. He's having another one of his steel books and
Slip
He-
covers.
yeah, I'm gonna be in the Steelbooks part of the tournament, probably be in last place, but I'm gonna have a great time, and that'll
Good
be
luck.
on that. Yeah, that'll be on Tuesday night. Thank you. On Monday night, we are gonna have movie swap next week. We're moving it up to Monday next week, and I'm gonna have James from 20th and 21st Century Films here, the man, the Criterion man.
James.
So, and we're gonna
Nice.
talk a couple of movies, and hopefully you guys will all tune in for that. Once again, hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe to Huck and join him for the morning mugs and the swap meets, and definitely for trivia when it comes back, and Collectors Club. So he's got a lot happening. So definitely join him for that. Sub to each other out there in the chat, because there are, again, a lot of good content creators just hanging around in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And just to say, Mirha says, thanks. Interesting stuff. Bye. See you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Janice is coming in late to basketball playoff season, but always enjoy the swaps. Thanks for coming in, and definitely come back next week. And that is all I have for you guys on this one. I'll catch you on the next one.